I'm going to see if I can do the video up here, even though it may not look professional and everything. But it's nice to be out here in the fresh air. Sun's been shining a little bit, just peeking out. Yeah, it's the 18th here, Saturday, as they call Shanivar. Yeah, okay. It's around 12 o'clock. I just finished, please, I'm not a professional person, I'm not a very advanced person, but I feel that even if I have a little bit of advancement, if I don't speak it out and say to somebody, then it's a loss. I do my japa 64 as best I can. Now, sometimes I get a really good mind and I can do, and if you calculate how many syllables per second, it would have to be 15. I can do around 32 minutes for 16. That comes about 15 syllables per second. Now, seems like an impossibility. When I met with Satsarup Maharaj in his room personally, in the 80s, I asked him, about how Srila Prabhupada, my Srila Prabhupada, would chant his rounds, because he's a very observant person. He was his secretary, personal secretary, and he's very observant. So he said he had about 3 vocal types. One was loud and slow so that everybody can hear. One was a little bit faster, and one is speedy. I call it speedy. But many didn't know about his other way of doing japa, which was inward, totally inward. I'm not going to say what somebody would say, in the mind. No, I do mine in the mind. Srila Prabhupada did not do his in his mind. He did it inward. And he would wake up in different places and perform different things. Like if he woke up, he personally did not use any alarm clock. He always wanted to look at a clock before going to sleep, see what time it was, and think of 2 o'clock in the morning. And then he would teach his secretaries that too, because he didn't want to hear an alarm clock. So in some places, while he was traveling, he would wake up, get up, and put water on his eyes to change the heartbeat, because the eyes don't know you're awake yet. So you put water on your eyes, you change your heartbeat, and now you know you're awake. And then it pumps as you were awake. So after doing that, he would sit down and take his japa and start chanting. Well, in Vrindavan, he would sleep with his japa right next to his head. And as soon as he woke up at 2, he would put his hand in his japa and start chanting. But he noticed there, Prabhupada would be moving his counter beads as we count them, and you wouldn't hear anything from him. So he was doing inward, concentrated, just sitting nicely on his bed and just concentrating very deeply. So I asked him, well, was he doing, how many was he doing? He says, well, he would do around half or more of his 64. And then during the day he would finish. So it's difficult to tell others that this is happening because it's difficult for them to do it. But this was his, I wouldn't say vow, this was his gift also to us and helping us serve his guru. So he was doing his 64. So I'm trying to do my 64. I'm trying. So as I'm doing my 64, I want to take advantage of the whole thing. Okay? So, this right here is the sitting place of the curing nature of all herbs. All the herbs around you, when they're taken in through here, then the smell, they cure your diseases. Well, I have a disease, big disease. I think I'm this body. I don't know anything about the soul or anything like that. So it's also a disease. So when I'm doing my mind japa, not my inward japa, but when I'm doing my mind japa, I try my best to inhale and exhale. Now, exhaling, everybody knows, if you exhale through the nose, it's proper, actually. Of all the yoga pranayams, they're majorly done by breathing only through your nose. Just a few of them are throwing something out. Regularly, it's just in through the nose, in through the nose. But your nose passage, or almost everybody's nose patches, is getting smaller and smaller and smaller because you don't use it. You don't concentrate on it. You don't force it. You don't, the muscles, So the airways, they start getting smaller and smaller. And your oxygen intake is getting smaller and smaller outside. So it's just not logical. People should try to smell. Try to bring in. Try to bring as much in as you can. So, there's also a yogic pranayam, Bhramari. B-H-R. And then M-A-R-I. Bhramari. And it, with the hands, you're covering different places. You're touching the nose, not stopping it up. You're touching the nose. And you're putting it on the eyelids. These are collectors. These are electric collectors. And these electric collectors are wanting to throw all this collection into the ear, into your brain. So it's a connecting. It's a connecting your body. You try to do Om the best you can. Now, somebody is listening to this, and they want to do some other thing. That's all right. The technique is to get a hum through the nose, connect it inside the brain, and activate the brain. So it's all very, very scientific, whether you use Om or whether anything like that. But as I'm chanting, it'd be difficult to perform that whole thing. So I also, when my out breath is coming, I try my best. That's coming from way down here. I'm trying to pull up as much as I can. Now, it's on the internet. Just by humming, you're making nitric oxide right here. Nitric oxide, when it is taken in, you have about 3 seconds, but when it's taken in into the lungs, it's antibacterial, antifungus, antivirus, so it can help you out a lot, not a little, a lot. So this is my practice every day. Because I know that breathing out through the nose and trying to make it vibrate as much as I can. Now, this also takes, being alone in another room. You don't do it out publicly. It would attract a lot of attention. So, unless you're here in India, they know what the heck you're doing. Okay, so now, this is breathing out. But what I want is breathing in also and getting the same effect. Okay, so I'll breathe out. I guarantee you're not hearing too much and you're not seeing me cough. But when you breathe in heavily through your nose, you'll cough. Because it is really pulling things. And it is really purifying. I see if I can do it really hard and see if I can make myself cough. It's a really good example. Now, can't even make myself cough. But you'll feel it. Sometimes it comes in through the mouth, but try to get it as much as you can through the nose. And that is because you're making the nitric oxide and you're producing it and it's going right into your body. Your nose is an incredible vehicle for purification. And it's an incredible vehicle for communication too. Yeah. I'm trying to see because many of the sounds in the Sanskrit alphabet they even called nasal sounds. They're there for a reason. You can definitely declare Om as a nasal sound. But there's another one, it's a combination of letters. That's I'm. That's clean. That's Shreem. And that's Shrom. I'm the Guru. Clean. Krishna. Shreem, the female. And Shrom, Nrsinga. So it produces a different sound, each one of them. So these are nasals. Nasal language. And what are they actually? They are what we would call attention grabbers. If I'm going to speak to Guru, I address him. I'm. Invocation is I'm. If I want to draw attention to Krishna, clean. If I want to draw attention to the Ladini Shakti of Krishna, Shreem. And if I want to draw attention to Lord Nrsinga, that's Shrom. So These are all beej mantras. They're seed mantras to attract. And I know you'll get energy. I know. There's no doubt about it. And I hope I covered the subject matter. That's about, if somebody can give an addition, give me some more training and more guidance on something like this, because it's 64 rounds. It's a normal 64 round is about 4 hours, a little bit more than 4 hours, and it's concentrated. No, the mind just doesn't deviate. Just and to do something like that, you really have to control everything. Especially, your mind wants to. Oh, I have to get on the internet. Oh, I have to go eat. Oh, I have to go this. Oh, I have to go that. And no, you concentrate. You concentrate. Even if you do it for a little bit, even 1 or 2, it's not like you're losing out on it. And for those that are perhaps listening and they're from another religion, well, then chant. There's so many names of God, you know. Allah is a bona fide name of God. And in the Bible, there's 16, I think it's 16 different names of God. So I wrote them down, and then I went to the State University, California State University of San Diego, because they have a big library that was put together by a famous person, and it has a lot about Judaism there. So I wanted to ask the head guy what he thought about those 16 names, and what tense were they? You know, were they in the vocative tense, calling? What tense were they? So when I showed him the names, he says, these names are in a spiritual tense, and we aren't able to repeat them. We don't have the manner of repeating these names because they're in a spiritual sense. So just by hearing that, I said, well, you know, they indicate certain things, that the 16 names are descriptive, just like the names of Krishna. They're descriptive of the mood of what you're invoking. They're not a name like Joe, John, that has nothing to do with you, but they're a descriptive name. So then I found out that these 16 names are descriptive names of different moods of God. So somebody in Christian faith, they can send me a more detail on that one. That's a beautiful one. But you can look them up and come, you know, with a conclusion, and then just chant that, you know. And of course you'll get some benefit from it. It may come slow, but you have to be really attentive. I make the pathway difficult. God makes the pathway very simple. But it's me that complicates the whole thing. So it's a simple for the simple-minded. Yeah. I hope that enlightens. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, give a donation, you know. and in the description I'll leave my address and everything. Okay. No, the sun is beaming down so good. Yeah, you can probably swallow the sun. Yeah. There was a civilization that lived on the energy of the sun. That we've heard about people living just on the energy of air, but actually there's a time when there was a civilization just living on the sun energy. There was no need for farming and things like that. And it's actually described in the Vedas. There was no need for it. When things become more difficult, but what was it's really incredible. What was the difficulty that happened? It was the greed of the people. When people started putting up boundaries. It's even mentioned by Bhishma. He says, don't cut the land that is given for grazing the cows, because that just makes battles. As soon as you start putting boundaries on everything, then it's a fight for who gets what. So I'm not dreaming in like a night, a daydream that let's go back to that time. No. This is a cycle. This is a natural cycle of gods. So we're in the natural cycle of gods where the cycle is on the downward slope. So I accept it. This is what he wants. This is what we're going to get. But on the upward cycle of that, there was no need for people to do farming, for anything like this. They could sit and meditate. And also their minds were very sharp. There was no need. Oh, we are more advanced because we have a language, and we have English grammar, and we have this grammar. Oh my gosh, no, we are not more advanced. We need it to communicate. We need it to communicate. It's not more advanced. They did not need it to communicate. There was no necessity to communicate that way. Why? Because their brain was used more. If I try to just communicate, I don't try to communicate with anybody to the person. I try to use a language to convince him. And he uses a language to convince me. It's not a communication. It's not an exchange. It's not a enlivening. It's for the purpose of getting my way. So the brain becomes dull. It's not being used. Practically speaking, if a person would dedicate themselves to dedicate themselves more to just trying to communicate with the mind in any way, then the power will start coming back. Okay, we'll end there. Nice day, and I can't believe it. The sun is even heating me up so much I have to take all these clothes off and everything. Aye.